Good day, everybody, and welcome back to the Coffee Cast. Today we are going to be looking at a series of build orders, and the first one we are going to be starting with is a Protoss vs Zerg 4-gate Robo fast third base. Now, the previous build order I did was a 3-gate Robo timing attack, but unfortunately, 1-base strategies have kind of been phased out of the metagame, and I don't think they're really coming back. Players are just too good at holding off against those type of strategies now, except maybe PvP, but that's another story for another day. Right now, once again, we're going to be looking at PvZ. We're going to be doing kind of an informal recording here. I have my coffee. I have a name to live up to. And just to let you guys know, I unfortunately am having problems with OBS. I did 5 takes of this very video on OBS, and they kept coming out funky. There was some problem, and I couldn't fix it. So I'm trying one last take on Expo, which is a program I have not used in quite some time. So hopefully things will go smoothly for us here. And let's go ahead and jump on into the game. So immediately you're going to notice I'm going to start off here with a gateway expand. You really can do any type of expand you want. You can do the Forge Fast expand or the gateway expand. It doesn't really matter that much. It's my personal preference. On a map like this, it's a little bit weird sometimes to do the Forge Fast expand. Big ramp, you have this thing that leads up into your into your natural expansion here. And, I mean, the Force Fast expand is viable on some maps with smaller ramps, smaller openings. I'm trying not to mention specific map names just because I want this to be a little more relevant going on into the future here. So, gateway expand, make sure to SimCity your buildings here in case there's some sort of 6 pool or 10 pool coming your way. You can use the SimCity build to kind of help defend against stuff. That 6 pool, by the way, will come around the 215 mark when your probe is about halfway out across the map. If you're doing a 13 scout like I do here, when your probe is about halfway across the map, you will see those Zerglings just begin chrono boosting out of Zealot. Easy defense. Pull a couple of probes, help yourself out. So this is going to be a very standard Protoss opening. It's going to be a 13 gate, 15 assimilator, and 16 pylon, and pretty soon a 17 cyber. So 13 gate, 15 assimilator. As soon as this is done, load up 3 units on gas and drop that cybernetics core when the gateway's finished here. Scout around with your probe to kind of keep an idea of what's going on. I'm actually technically I should have done a different build order since this Roach warns early, but it's an easy AI. And the way I'm presenting this build order is in a perfect world, this is what I want it to look like. A little snag there. So I'm going to start off with a mothership core here right off the bat. I do tend to delay my warp gate tech a little bit to get this mothership core out earlier. The reason being, I like to have a little bit extra energy on the mothership core for the photon overcharge, time warps, whatever. And on the next 50 gas, I start warp gate and get ready to expand. You want your 3rd pylon down here on the low ground. That's going to allow you to start doing your wall off here. So get the Nexus, then the Forge and Gateway here, or I mean you can really vary up these buildings. You can do Forge, Gateway, Nexus. You can do any sort of variance of it if you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable. I generally like doing the Nexus, Forge, and then the Gateway, and then you'll put a cannon behind these buildings, and it's a nice, easy defense there. If you're feeling really unsafe, you can drop a 2nd or even a 3rd cannon if you'd like. 3 cannons, generally a little bit much, generally a little bit too much spent into defense, but if you're really feeling uncomfortable, you think you're about to get whacked by some big timing attack, never hurts to get that going. I personally like to get sentries out early as well for the same reason as the mothership core, just to start getting the energy saved up there. Once your wall has begun, once you have the Forge and the Gateway down on that wall, as well as of course the Nexus, go ahead, take your assimilator in your main base. That's going to allow you to start building up that gas count, start getting the extra sentries, start getting the upgrades and the robotics on the field. And you're going to see fairly shortly here, I will be getting a fast +1 off of this Forge. Reason being, that's going to allow me to kill Zerglings with 2 hits rather than 3 for my Zealots, which is a really big deal if they come in with any sort of timing attack on you. Once this Nexus finishes, you're going to want to start saturating your natural expansion, getting that double probe production up. You can really spend your chrono boost kind of wherever you want. I like to do a lot on the Forge, getting that upgrade nice and quickly, but you can spend it on the macro capabilities of the Nexus as well, getting your extra probes up to help deal with the larva injects of the Zerg player. Once this Nexus finishes up, you're going to take gateways number 3 and 4 right here, or you can make them up in your main base. Once again, depending on the map, depending on where you need your wall. And with gateways 3 and 4 down on the field, lay down your 3rd assimilator as well. Where am I in my notes here? Gateways 2 and 4. And okay, so there we are. Make sure to double power these buildings. Obviously, you don't want any Artosis pylons. And once again, if a timing attack comes, you don't want it so that one pylon unpowered will take out all of your gateways. Drop down a robotics facility as your resources allow. We do have the 4 gateways on the field here. We have all the gases. We're going to be taking this 4th gas fairly shortly, I believe. Yep, there it goes. 4th gas going to allow us once again start getting our tech a little bit higher, keep up with that upgrade count. And generally, I'm gonna take a quick pause right here. We see my upgrade is about 3/4 the way finished. For if you're gonna continuously be upgrading, you want to drop the Twilight Council at 50% completion. But in this case, the upgrades are not the focus of this build. They are a benefit, but they are not the focus. So just kind of drop that Twilight while resources allow. And I, once again, like to go for a quick +2. Just kind of start getting a nice upgrade advantage, or at least be even in upgrades. Helps out a little bit going into the mid game there, especially if they're coming with some sort of timing attack. You don't want them to be on an upgrade advantage. It really hurts. So robotics facility is now up and running. The first thing I'm going to pop out of that is an immortal to help deal with any sort of rote attacks. I'm going to follow it up with a couple of observers and the robotics bay. Make sure to take this robotics bay before laying down your 3rd nexus. The reason for that is if they come in with a lot of Zerglings or Zergling Roach, or pardon me, a Zergling Hydralisk timing attack of some sort, you really need that AoE damage in the back. And with Zealots in the front, Sentries for Force Shields, and Colossus, you will be just fine versus any sort of attack that they can lay on you. With the Robotics Bay down on the map, take your 3rd Nexus, start getting your Colossus production on the map, and you're actually going to notice, shh, don't tell anybody, my observers are just going to fly out to their death over in the the main base. Don't do that. And actually, you're going to even notice my Colossus is going to be rallied over there. Don't forget to change that rally point. +2 weapons, well on its way right now. I also have Charge on the way that's going to once again be setting myself up for these tech ups into the late game. I have the 2nd Forge coming down now, and fairly shortly I'm going to be dropping down gateways 5 and 6. This replay is actually now ending, nearing completion, I should say. So I just want to kind of take a quick moment and take a look at where we're at in this game. You're going to notice I'm going to begin banking up minerals. And the reason for that is if I need to warp in to deal with a counterattack, or, if I can jump over into another matchup in PvT, if you need to warp in to defend against a drop, you want to have your gateways on cooldown. Maybe even a couple extra gateways never hurts. And you want to have some resources in the bank so you can take care of that. Tech-wise, we're set up in a pretty darn good position. We have our robotics facility on the field as well as our robotics bay, so we have the Colossus tech up. We're beginning to get the Colossus out on the field to deal with any sort of Zergling or Hydralisk timing attack. And so the Zerg player can either stick with that, or they can transition to Roaches or up into Spire, and that's where your late game transition is going to come into play. You can do a couple of things here. If you're going to stick on the Colossus tech, add on a 2nd robotics facility, get Blink as soon as Charge is done to deal with Corruptors, and just kind of chrono boost out lots and lots of Colossus and start getting an armor upgrade. From here, with the Twilight Council in the field though, you can also tech up into any sort of Archon you want to. You can do High Templar for Storm Archon, you can do Dark Templar for Charge out Archon, and then be able to harass the 3rd and the 4th base of the Zerg, which technically should be here, but again, I mean, easy AI. I mean, they're not going to be doing too much right now. I just kind of wanted an unhindered build order here. We have lots of gas. We have gases 5 and 6 coming up, so we can go ahead and do multiple tier 3 techs. So we can do Charge the Archon Colossus. We can transition up and do Void Rays or Carriers if we want. This build order, not the best for transition into airplay, but if you see a Spire, for instance, you're going to want Phoenixes or Storm. Something akin to that. Just make sure to react to the Spire. Regardless of that, though, this can transition into Stargate if you want. Void Rays on top of Colossus, always a great composition here. Blink is going to be something that you want at some points in time, but you can delay it a little bit if you're going for Charge the Archon of some sort. If you're going for Airplay, or if you're going for Templar Tech, get Shields at your Forge, because that will benefit your Archons much more. And let's see if there's anything else here that I'm forgetting to mention. Not really. The double upgrades here are going to allow you to at least stay on par, if not get ahead of your opponent. We have all sorts of tech in place. Begin adding on your gateways here, and everything will be A-okay. You're going to see the Zerg actually contaminate me. Zerg players, do this to your opponents because it's so frustrating as a Protoss. just make sure to keep up on your probe production. You're going to see I'm going to be transferring some probes over here. We're going to watch my Colossus just get mercilessly slaughtered over in the Zerg base. That was a complete accident. Again, try not to do that. And this replay is going to end fairly shortly. There we go. So I have my +3 weapons on the way. In this case, I just kind of started up my +1 armor upgrade. Once again, shields if you're going to be doing Templar or Stargate tech. And I am ready to transition into a very solid tech upgrade and macro-based late game. Oh wow, my scene transition actually worked. I wasn't expecting that. So that's going to be the 4-gate Robo fast third base build order versus Zerg. It's been around since the end of Wings of Liberty. It transitioned great into Heart of the Swarm with the addition of the Mothership Core. In fact, I personally feel it makes it even a little bit better, being able to get that gateway tech out a little bit earlier. And all around, it's just a very solid strategy. It's very hard for a Zerg player to break, and it generally forces the Zerg to go into a later macro game. So if you have any questions or comments about this build order, please leave something down below. My email address is also down in the description of this video. As well, I'll put all the notes from this video that I took down in that description as well, so you can read through that. So again, feel free to ask me questions, leave a comment. I always love reading them, and I will do my best to get back to you as quickly as I can. Thanks for stopping in, guys. I will hope to have the PvT as well as the PvP build orders up fairly shortly. And until next time, this is Coffee Break, signing out.